say the women are the backbone of the family, and the women are the backbone of the community. You must move and speak and act with the authority of the mother. Her laws are absolute. So I say, she is the boss. Mother Earth is the ultimate authority here, and it's her way or the highway. We stand with the authority to always speak on behalf of life in every situation, to ask with every decision that is being made, with every proposal, are we putting life at the center? So I say, imagine what it would be like if the President of the United States was chosen by the Grandmother's Lodge. Then what would happen?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Women, men, trans and non-binary folk. Yes, we see and welcome you all here. This will be our last episode for a couple of months, and we will be back in April after we've had a break and I've returned from my motherland of India. In the meantime, you can listen through the archives and join our other offerings, which you can find out about over on allthatweare.org or amisha.co.uk. I will be opening spaces for beautiful leadership mentoring beginning last week of March, so if you are interested, please book a call as soon as you can. It's always such a deep honor and joy to go through this process, shifting deep subconscious patterns and really planting and blooming into these new seeds of being. This time we're ending the mentoring journey in a private rites of passage ceremony to really anchor in everything that has happened with ritual. You can find out more about Beautiful Leadership Mentoring over on our calendar. It is a 4-month journey working one-to-one with me, opening into the possibilities of more creativity, love, and flow in your life. And if you are intrigued, please do book a call. Interestingly, when we were finding our timeless for this week, it changed a few times before we landed on this one, which feels important to honor women and the earth and life itself. Every single human being on this planet has been birthed by the female kind, yet we don't honor or respect the cycles of women. It blows my mind that we still don't respect this biology that is at the center of everything. This timeless has actually never been shared on the podcast before. It was recorded on the same day that I sat down with Pat McCabe for episode 111 on emergence, restoration, and co-creation, entitled Human Gifts of Kinship. I invite you to go to the archives and listen to that episode. This was part of the Style and Presence Summit, which was something that I've been dreaming up for many, many years. Some of you won't know this, but I spent 10 years working on changing the fashion industry. I was called one of the pioneers of the sustainable fashion movement before we understood how colonial that phrase pioneer is. Integrating this work and my spiritual journey, I came up with Style and Presence, which was and still is a reclamation of worth. At its core, the invitation into Style and Presence is one to live one's values with beauty from the inside out, to live the interrelationship between both the worth of women and the worth of the world. It's a truly inspirational summit, and you can go find all of the amazing offerings for this and take part through the link in our show notes. This was recorded for an audience of women, including those who identify as women. But this really is important for everyone to listen to if we're to find a way out of misogyny and into deep respect of the feminine. And I invite all men to listen and to honor deeper your mothers, grandmothers, wives, sisters, and daughters. This week, as we have entered both a Chinese New Year, the year of the wood snake, and a new government in the US, with everything that means for everyone all over the world, we are dedicating this episode to the feminine, to Mother Earth, to the female cycles. So much happens in our world to this day, like the horror experienced by Giselle Pellicott, and what it shows us about where we truly are with respecting women. That so many men came forward to rape a man's wife while she was drugged asleep. She has become an icon of our time with her bravery and her words. She says, when you are raped, there is shame. And it's not for us to have shame, it's for them. And for us to move beyond shame and really into a place of integrated healing, we all have to do this work. We are all part of this misogyny, this deep disrespect of the life force that births us. We all come through a woman's body into this world. We live here on Mother Earth, and yet women are so often objectified, subjugated, and taken for granted. We often discuss on this podcast how we can make a more beautiful future. And here is one thing that everyone listening can do, no matter what body you find yourself in. Heal the misogyny within and imagine what would happen in this world if we all did it, and how that would create powerful ripples of a whole new planetary experience, and how this could move us beyond exploiting our very earth and the resources here. Take some time to truly investigate your relationship with the divine feminine, with the women in your life, especially the one who birthed you and the ones who have supported you and are there for you. The words woman, life, freedom feel close in global solidarity of women and girls in Iran who are courageously demonstrating peacefully for their fundamental human rights. Zan Zendagi Azadi, Jin Jayan Azadi, woman, life, freedom. Our guest today is Woman Stands Shining. Yes, this is her name. You can hear more about how she was named in episode 111. She is also called Pat McCabe, one of the Diné Nation, and was adopted into the Lakota spiritual way of life. She lives in rural New Mexico, but travels internationally to speak, to pray, and to share her journey with others. Descended from elders taken into residential boarding schools, intended to strip her people of their culture. She is continually in the process of remembering and listening for the way home, back to the true nature of being human being. Describing this process as her greatest gift to the world, a particularly strong part of this journey has been to remake her understanding of gender and the spiritual capacity they each, more than two, hold. Her guides have expressed to her, you think you know what masculine is, but you don't. You think you know what feminine is, but you don't. All you know is how these energetics behave in a power over paradigm. But if you were to plug them into a different paradigm, they would behave in a completely different way. Exploring this council is one of the greatest adventures she knows. In this timeless, we go beyond the Billionaires Boys Club and explore how true respect for women dismantles toxic power. And I have to say, this feels like such an important one for me. As many of you know, I am currently in a deep process caring for my mother through a very intense and horrific illness. And yet I'm finding it to be one of the most powerful, beautiful things that I have ever had to do, that is completely remaking me as a different kind of human being. And so my invitation here really is to do this work of honoring the feminine and honoring our mothers as we face that in all of its imperfection. I really believe that something can happen that can shift the power paradigm that we currently find ourselves in into something currently unimaginable on Earth. Welcome to All That We Are, with me, your host, Amisha Tala Oak. On this show, we explore the weave between activism, the sacred, creativity, and regeneration, the spaces where our inner and outer worlds dance. From healing trauma to nature connection, to new technologies, to ancient wisdom, it's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a more beautiful future. Despite the challenges we face as a global community or the pressures we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to listen, to ask ourselves the big questions and to share what we are already doing and envisioning, we create the futures of our wildest dreams, and we begin to embody all that we are becoming, and all that is possible.
I come from two cultures by blood. I'm Diné, so I'll say She'e'ia, Tachi Nishli, Aro Ashi Bashishchin, Ma'adish Geshne Dashanale, Plaushi Daushche, Quatawas Dani Nishli, and I'm telling you about my clans, and we get our clans from our mothers. I wanted to invoke them. And not only do we get our clans from our mothers, but all wealth, all property, all possessions are passed down through the mother's side traditionally. So we were the wealth keepers of our people. And then I was also adopted into the Lakota spiritual way of life, and I was given the name Wiakpa Najinwi, womaning, standing, shining. What comes to mind from that side is you say the women are the backbone of the family, and the women are the backbone of the community. So me coming from modern world paradigm and making a journey back to my own cultures is teaching me a lot about being a woman and what's actually truly powerful about being a woman. And it's very different in these different paradigms. So I was called on at one point to spend about 5 days with the Kogi people. A lot of the world has heard of them. There's some films out about them. And to me, they're the elders of the indigenous peoples in many ways. They are from the Sierra Nevadas in Colombia. You know, their medicine people are known from birth. And my understanding is they spend their entire life in caves, anywhere from, like 12 years to 20, first 12 to 20 years of their life in these caves. And what they're doing there, they're listening to the Mother Earth. And so then they come out from that place and they live among their people. So it's one of the deepest initiations I've ever heard of in humanity. And so when they began to see that the earth was out of balance, it was so precious because they're such an amazing people that live in such deep harmony with earth. And yet their first thought was, because they say that they live in the heart of the earth, they said, well, things going the way they are in the earth, all this destruction and the loss of all of our relations. And so seeing all of the environmental destruction taking place, what they said to themselves was, wow, since we live in the heart of the world, it had to have begun here with us. And so they went into some really deep inquiry about their own people, their own lives, their own history, their own ways. And what they emerged with was what happened here was the masculine overpowered the feminine. So these are some of the least contacted indigenous peoples on the planet. And this was their conclusion of what had happened in their own community, their own society. And then when they came out and I met with them here in the Southwest, I live in New Mexico. We spent 5 days with them and they said over and over again, the women are going to lead, the women are going to lead. And I'm also thinking about the Dalai Lama, talking about how it's going to be the women of the West who are going to change things. And my elders say, there's many prophecies that say the women are going to be the ones that are going to turn things around. So what the Kogi and the Wiwa, another tribe of Colombia that met with us, said, to the women we say, you must move and speak and act with the authority of the mother. You must move and speak and act with the authority of the mother. And those words really rang like a gong all through my body. In almost every indigenous culture I've ever been around, we say the women are synonymous with life. The women are synonymous with earth. Now, we live on earth. We don't live Pluto, Mars, Jupiter. No, we live on earth. And she has her laws for how life can thrive here. And I think we as humanity have lost track of what those laws might be. But it doesn't mean they're not there. And we're not going to rewrite her laws. I think we've been acting as though maybe we will, but we're not going to. Her laws are absolute. So I say, she is the boss. Mother Earth is the ultimate authority here, and it's her way or the highway. So, as to be synonymous with Earth, to be synonymous with life, means that we are standing with that authority. And so I say, we stand with the authority always to speak on behalf of life. Here's my grandmother finger. We stand with the authority to always speak on behalf of life in every situation, to ask with every decision that is being made, with every proposal, are we putting life at the center? That's our authority. Are we putting life at the center? So my daughter doesn't like it that I use that word authority. And that's because it has been very damaging to be under different authorities as humanity. So what kind of authority am I really talking about? I'm talking about not an authority from the power over paradigm in which might makes right, where one thing has to dominate over another in order to have what it needs. This is the authority of the mother to say to her children, we're going to divide this pizza equally so that everybody is fed, all the children are fed, all the elders are cared for. And we're also talking about an authority that is a spiritual authority. I say my biology gives me a spiritual capacity as the female of our kind. And so that's a big part of the rebuilding, reclamation, resurrection of my self-esteem, is to begin to understand what it is that only I can do as the female of our kind. And it's caused me to be less and less interested in what the men are doing over there. In modern world paradigm, the men, because might makes right, so men are going to dominate in that paradigm. It's important for me to be able to do what the men can do and to show that I can show up as they do. But that's not a life way paradigm. That's a death way paradigm. So there's a process of extracting myself from there and coming back to a sense of what kind of spiritual capacity is my biology giving me here? Because that's a truth that is aligned with Earth. So I have found, not for all of my life, but for 7 years of my life, I came to understand that my moon time gave me a capacity to approach this Mother Earth, to make a profound offering to her, either literally or energetically, and acknowledge the life that is inherently gifted to me to bring into this world. So at that time, I'm dismantling the holy altar of life. And if I acknowledge that to this Mother Earth, and I dedicate it to her, I gift it to her, again, either literally or energetically, then I'm giving her one of the highest offerings that a human can give to her. And I also open to her. Biologically, I'm opening to her. My cervix is opening. And so I can receive from her in a very profound way. And so what we say is that I have the capacity to receive her nurturing and her nourishment, which I need. If I'm going to be the backbone of the family and the backbone of the community, where am I going to get mine? I have to get it from somewhere. And so I can get it from her at that time. But also, and this is what's really key, is I can receive direct instruction from her about how to be here. And yes, I'm from an Indigenous culture, but I want to say that those ways have actually even become a little bit taboo in my cultures. So I'm not necessarily speaking from that place as Indigenous person. I'm only speaking as being the female of our kind. And what I find is working with women of all nationalities is when I propose that to them and ask them, just try to spend some time during that time of the month with the Mother Earth with that intention and watch what happens. Watch what happens. So if we notice in the world, we're not supposed to acknowledge that women have moon times. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to see any evidence of it. Goodness, no. We don't want to, like that should be hidden. And not only that, we want you as a woman to show up and act like nothing is happening. That's how we're supposed to be doing it, right? And so we're suppressing some of the most powerful resource to really understand how to be with this earth. Part of the authority that it's not the ranting and raving and loud plea or begging for equality. That's not really true authority. It might be necessary in some instances, but let's recognize it's not actually the place of our authority. Our authority comes actually from this Mother Earth. And if we begin to listen to her and we begin to follow her instructions, whether the people around us can get on board or not, as we begin to see the correctness, the genius, the creativity that she's leading us towards, we grow in confidence and we grow in maturity, and our presence begins to part the way in the world. That's what I've noticed, is the more I've gone into that space with her, the way I tried to have authority at other times with the ranting and raving and such, and imposing and being power over, eating power over with power over, the men were always like, and I'm formidable at that too. So wasn't any fun. But now that I'm moving into this other space and I'm moving with her and from her as her, now the men are leaning in and they're saying, "Oh, thank God you're here." And so now we're having a place of being able to collaborate. Well, we're getting there. But now there's trust, because now we're both feeling a win-win. It's a life wins. And I'm bringing that knowledge of how life wins for all of us here. And the elder women also have their place, and that's another story. When I bring up, what is possible for the mooning women, because many women have never heard of such a thing, they feel pretty left out if they've left that time. And so what I will say is, one, you have the ability, and we don't need a lot of instruction in that. It's just, if you get quiet and spend time in that place and just ask the mother with that intention, things will begin to unfold. It's a very thin veil for us at that moment. It doesn't take a lot. So one, you can tell the young women that you know about this possibility. That's a way that you can participate. But also, I want to say that what I was told about coming into my elder womanhood, my menopause was not very gentle with me. Everybody's is different, but mine was really, really difficult. Well, I say it was difficult, but it was only difficult because I was still trying to fit into a paradigm that has absolutely no place for me as I'm going through that. So there wasn't support, there wasn't acknowledgement. But what I was told about that time was that I was going into labor again. And they said, at this time, you're going to birth yourself as the fruitful woman. And it's radical. It's a radical change. And it's the burning off of the unessential. And so you can find that, the elder woman tends to be more direct in the speaking and in the stating, right? And so I was told that, if I could make that journey, if I could go through that labor and not necessarily try to circumvent it all the time I was told to stay with the plant medicines. Whatever the plant medicines could give me was fair game, but to go beyond that. And I don't know that this is for everybody, but it was what direction I would receive. So in other words, for me, I couldn't go to synthetic hormones or animal hormones or those kinds of things. It would stay with the plants. And there were afternoons where I just was panting like I was in labor, just to get through it. And then as soon as the sun would go down, it would let up. And I went day after day like that. But there is something very powerful about that time. And they said, if you can pass through that time, learning about yourself that deeply, that you will be able to claim a seat in the grandmother's lodge. And they said the grandmother lodges have to be reinstated again. The grandmother lodges are the counterbalance to masculine leadership. And in some cultures, it's the grandmother's lodges that chooses the men's leadership because they've known the men since they were little boys. So I say, imagine what it would be like if the president of the United States was chosen by the grandmother's lodge. Then what would happen? So I'm still learning what it means to reinstate the grandmother's lodges. But I want to paint that picture of us because we don't ever get to hear what that really is. And then if you think about a grandmother who has spent every one of her moon times, so let's say I started mine when I was 11 and I finished when I was about 47 or 48. So it's like more than 35 years of moon times, 12 a year, going in and inquiring from the Mother Earth for instruction. Imagine the elder woman I'm going to be at that point. I'm a force to be reckoned with. I am one of the most precious assets that our community has. So I want to at least paint that picture for us of another possibility of who the elder woman really is. And may our lives thrive, may our children's lives be blessed, and may our elders be cared for. The acknowledgement of life and therefore the woman.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and it has sparked some inspiration and creativity in you. This is one of our timeless editions, a short and powerful piece of wisdom for you to contemplate, integrate, and embody. We have an archive of over 200 epics, long, deep conversations for you to explore, share, and enjoy. We keep this podcast advertising free as we don't want to sell you things that you don't need. This is made possible by you supporting our work as a member of Presence Collective, a patron, or through joining our offerings. You can also support us by sharing this with those that you love. Can you send it to 10 people who you know will find it powerful? This podcast is made by an all-female global team. You can explore our world at allthatweare.org and find your ways to take part. All That We Are celebrates all that we are already and the untapped potential that lives inside us. We exist to offer a space of sanctuary in the ever-increasing chaos, a place where you can come and be in good company, a place where you can learn, unlearn, and connect to your own wisdom. And know that in each and every moment, all that we are is here.